Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Kemmler. Our next guest is one of my favorite comedians in the world. He is so funny. He is here to promote the second season of his show, Jon Glaser Loves Gear. It is airing on TruTV. Let's take a look at the trailer.
You are about to jump in 3, 2, 1, go time.
Jon Glaser has more gear, more power,
the jackhammer,
and more budget for cool shots. Model parent.
You're a natural Jewish athlete, just like your father.
Loving husband.
Well, you've been spending so much time with your fake me that I decided to get a fake you.
Renaissance man.
Why don't we take your shirt off? That seems fun. What, it wasn't sexual, clearly. It was artistic. I mean, look at these. They're beautiful.
This season, Jon Glaser is ready to swing into high gear.
This couple, they propositioned the two of you to have sex?
I said yes immediately. This chicken needs to get off the fence.
Oh, there you go.
What are those?
Geary, play the Sweet Clean song.
He's on his feet, he can't be beat, walking down the street. You feel the heat tenderize the meat inside of you, sweet please.
Everybody, please welcome Jon Glaser.
Thanks.
Glon Glaser.
Blonde Glazer.
Glon Glaser. I think it was Glon Glaser.
You said Glon?
Yeah.
Glon
GL
Glaser.
at the top. Jon, it's good to see you again. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is, I think, the funniest show on television right now.
Wow.
I love the first season. I think
Bold
the second
claim.
season is even better. It's so
Thanks.
great. Do you feel like going into the second season there were things that you wanted to push, or did you feel like you were, like, did you think you pushed a lot of the humor as far as it could go the first, and the second season you were doing even more of that?
Yeah, it was just like, let's make it stupider. Let's have more gear. Those are the top two agendas.
More gear.
Yeah, more gear, more stupidity. There's a couple new cast members.
Who are the new cast members?
There is a love interest for Geary.
Yeah.
Geary is a voice on my phone. So that phone has a love interest, which is a drone named Droney Maloney.
And Geary's voiced by John Hodgman, right?
Yep. There's a new sidekick.
Right.
Something happens to my original Spurt, which is short for expert. Bowen Yang, you know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
Very funny guy, plays that character.
Sort of a reluctant sidekick in that department there.
Yeah. Those are the two main new characters.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a network executive played by Bhavesh Patel. Super funny guy. I hope I didn't just butcher his name. Apologies if I did.
Each episode essentially starts with you wanting to explore some form of gear and then going off into a personal nightmare built off of how you have misunderstood that gear or how that gear relates to your life. Is that something that you found as you were writing the show, or right away you knew that each episode was kind of going to go like that even when you first started the show?
I think it's more the former, where when we were working on the first season, it sort of kind of evolved that way. I mean, the show really changed from pitch to pilot to series. When I originally pitched it, it was way more of a reality show. I didn't even consider comedy networks. I just thought, I'll go to like North Face and Patagonia, my favorite companies, and nerd out on their new gear and test stuff, and then we'll think of comedy components for later. And then it just became more scripted and became more about being a comedy show, and now it's just a fully, or almost fully scripted, fake reality show.
I mean, it's a companion piece to Delocated in a lot of ways.
In some ways, just that it's a fake reality show. The premises are obviously very different. Yeah. Although I'm playing an asshole whose name is John, and in this case, it's a asshole version of myself, which is really weird.
You have a family that doesn't want to be on camera.
Correct. That's true. Yeah, we were during the pilot saying it was like the reverse Delocated at times, just because there are people with their faces blurred. But yeah, I guess they do have those very similar dynamics.
Well, I think you have a love and appreciation for playing the biggest asshole possible, right?
It's always enjoyable. Yeah, the bigger the asshole, the better, right? In all forms of life. Yeah. On and off stage.
So when you go into writing this and you come up with the gear, at this point, going into the second season, now that it's become a more scripted show, you come up with this idea for the gear, say like the photography episode, and then it's like, how can Jon essentially use this photography in a way that belittles and destroys everybody around him?
I don't think we necessarily set out to intentionally like belittle or destroy or do anything
Maybe
like that.
himself more often.
It's more about just having that starting point, that leaping off point, and then trying to figure out what story works best. What feels organic and seamless from the premise. For example, in the photography episode, I don't want to give it away, but something happens at a photography studio where there's a revelation, this sort of emotional life that has life consequences, and then we follow that story, which deviates very hard from photography, and then that story leads to something else with the guy that holds the megaphone on the show. So it's multi-layered, but everything starts from the gear topic, and it still tries to hold on to the bones of this gear show hosted by this guy, but it is a reality show that's following his life, so the cameras have to try their best to keep up with what's going on. And one of my favorite dynamics is when they still try to hold on to the show. If this was a real show, there might be a very dramatic, awkward moment that might be then punctuated by a piece of gear getting ID'd, where they're just still trying, which really makes me laugh. So that's sort of, I guess...
Or I feel like sometimes that ID was coming up in ways this season that wasn't even about the gear. I mean, I watched a lot of episodes back to back, so maybe I'm blurring it, but at some points the ID would show up for something that wasn't about the gear. It was about an emotional moment in the show.
Is it? I don't remember. I thought it was always like a specific piece of gear that gets ID'd, which is really what makes me laugh, that it's just, here's an awkward emotional moment, and they're throwing in a gear ID, which just really seems... Right,
it's you being like, I love you, son, no matter what, and then it's like, North Face hat.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the episodes, I'm not giving too much away by saying there's a swing episode, right? Would I be giving too much away by even just bringing that episode up?
I guess not. It sort of got mentioned in the trailer about the three-way.
How...
swing dancing is where the episode starts, and that turns into swinging in general.
At the top of that episode, your character hates swing dancing, swing music, swing fashion.
So he says, and then maybe discovers that maybe he doesn't.
Is that from a personal place?
Yes. All due respect to swing dancing, people that like it. And when I hear the music, it's just like I have this visceral, just, oh, God. But then maybe like in the show, maybe it's kind of fun. I don't know.
It reminded me of a moment in Delocated where there was a plot line around like doo-wop singers and sha-na-na. And I remember...
The Good Guys Club.
The Good Guys Club. And you hated sha-na-na when you came up with that idea, didn't you?
I don't know if it was specifically hating sha-na-na. I actually do like doo-wop. My dad was, he grew up in Detroit, really into Motown, really into a cappella, turned me on to like this band, The Persuasion, this group called The Persuasions. Really, really great. I like that perfectly fine. For some reason, just swing, just like, oh, God, it just gets me
something
bad.
about it.
Beep it bop bop beep bop. Oh God.
The Brian Setzer
Again, all due
orchestra.
respect. All due respect.
And the fashion choices, you end up looking kind of cool.
What, in the swing episode? If you say so.
The denim stuff's not bad. The hats.
I don't like any of it.
I think the hats I could do without.
Yeah.
The fedoras. Are they fedoras technically or top hats?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you get to keep any of the gear from the show?
A fair amount. Yeah. It's nothing too crazy. I don't get to take a bunch of flat screen TVs home, but there's a few really good things. Like from the first season, I did get that. I got a custom made bike, which was crazy. And then it's like some jackets and running shoes, and it kind of, there's nothing too big and crazy, but it's a few nice things. That was one of the jokes when I pitched the show, is that it should be called Jon Glaser Likes Getting Free Stuff, because it seems like such an obvious thing, making a show about gear. Yeah.
You're wearing your New York City Marathon.
Wore it just for you, hoping you'd bring it up.
Right? Because I ran the marathon, too.
Mm-hmm, I know you did. I tracked you.
That's right. You did
track you.
Me.
You run my thing with my wife, her friend, you, my friend Adam, a couple other people.
Yeah, you were the first person that I ran by that I knew, because my wife was up in Greenpoint and there was a couple people in Bed-Stuy, but you were in Park Slope. And you were the first. It was like mile 7.
We live right around mile 7, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so thrilling on both sides. If you're in the race, when you see your friends, it's thrilling. When you're, it might even be more thrilling to be watching, because it's just a sea of tens of thousands of people, and it seems like it's impossible to pick someone out. And then there they are, and it's such a rush. I love both sides of it.
It really keeps you going, too. There's something about it that immediately zaps you and makes you move faster.
I was amazed by the adrenaline rush I got when I saw my friends. You hear about it, it's a thing, but it was so exciting to see friends, especially deep in the race when it's so hard. Although by the last few miles, I saw a couple friends and I was dead. I really was like, get away from me. I can't move. Yeah. It was rough. But we do a running joke in this season where I'm always constantly bragging about having run the marathon. It's really annoying.
It's called run the thon, right?
Like ran the thon, yeah. It's an obnoxious abbreviation of the word marathon. Apostrophe THON. I ran the thon.
As much as that's a joke, how much? What part of you also wants to do that all the time?
Well, it's certainly satisfying to.
Like you put that in the show for a reason.
I guess yes and no. Well, it's listen. I mean, it cuts both ways because it is cool to run the marathon, but literally tens of hundreds of thousands of people have done it. It's one of the jokes that comes up in the show where I'm constantly bragging about it and I'm being reminded of that at the same time. Right. Like, yeah, you and 50,000 people did it that year. Great. I mean, I'm not belittling it. It is an absolute accomplishment and achievement. It was so hard. It was so hard, but I would do it again.
Are you going to do another one?
I kind of feel like I have to. I want to do at least one more in New York specifically, and I'd like to do one somewhere else in either another city or somewhere international, but just to do the New York Marathon one more time so I have something. It's a direct comparison to see how I can do better. If I can run faster, finish stronger at the end, how can I train differently? This is all super boring running talk, but I do want to do New York at least one more time and hopefully sooner than later before I get too much older.
Yeah, that's my plan too. I want to try to hit 4 hours. That's like the time that I would like to try to hit. I don't know if I'll be able to do it.
Yeah, if I can do 4.5, between 4.5 and 4, which I'm not sure if I can, but I'm also getting into trail running a lot, which I like a lot more. Right. And I did a trail half marathon back in September. I trained terribly for it, but it was so hard. Up in New Paltz and the Shawangunk Ridge Trail. Oh, right. The Gunks.
I attempted rock climbing up in the Gunks.
Yeah, it's a big rock climbing up there. It's beautiful, but man, it was so hard. Really rugged terrain, very technical, very steep climbs, but it was really fun. As hard as it was, beautiful too. It's gorgeous.
What was your half marathon time with that one?
For the trail half?
Yeah.
I mean, that took me 3.5 hours.
Really?
I mean, it was so hard. There's a lot of walking involved in a trail half. I love how this went from an interview show about this TV show to just us talking about running. But the there's lots of climbing, there's lots of walking. I really tried to focus on just go slow, enjoy it, take some, a few minutes here and there to just stop and enjoy some really spectacular, beautiful views. But then by the end, it was still pretty warm. It was upper 70s, pretty humid. I was dying by the end. I mean, even on the flats, I just had to walk and go slow. So it took me longer than I thought, but still, it's just a much different type of race and a much different type of run. There's hiking and walking involved. So it's going to take you a lot longer than a regular half marathon.
Have you always been a runner or an athletic person? Did your love of gear stem from that, or is it something that came for you later in life? Like I found these past 4 years, I got really into running and doing activities, whereas in my 20s, I was like, I'm not doing anything.
Running is a newer thing. I ran a little bit here and there when I was growing up, but not consistently. And even only the last 5 years I've done it, and really the last 2 to 3 years, like really consistently, especially since the marathon, because I worked all that work you put into it. I didn't want to just let that fitness just disappear, but I really got hooked and addicted and hooked on it. And I like running. I feel like I need to do it. But when I was little, I always kind of liked gear and a lot of sports stuff. I remember in 5th grade trying to convince my mom that I had to have soccer cleats and baseball cleats. Like I couldn't use my soccer cleats for baseball because the cleat pattern is different, the way it's designed. It's all bullshit, but you're just trying to rationalize it as a kid. And I got to have the different cleats because they're just different and they're cool. So
gear love, unless you really specifically know like exactly why the gear is great. It's the same thing like with stereos. You just hear the people say the stuff.
It doesn't have to be athletic. Exactly right. Pick the topic, the subject, the activity you like, whatever the gear is, it's that same mindset for sure.
And all you have to do is tell your significant other about what you've learned about the gear to realize how silly you sound while you're talking about it.
It's so boring.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right.
Okay, why don't you just go buy it? I don't care.
Yeah.
One of the things that you like to say about this show is that it's really dumb. It's just as dumb as it could possibly get. Are there ever any ideas that are just too dumb to even make sense within the narrative of the show?
I don't think so. I think it's always the dumber the better, and if we can just make it strange and obnoxious, like even in the poster, I love that My wife's face is blurred. It's just such a weird joke. The premise is that my wife doesn't want to be on camera, so the compromise is that we'll blur her face. And I don't want my kids on camera, so we blur their faces. And then I hire actors to play my family so we can actually see their facial reactions. So it's a really dumb, like jokes like that, I just like putting in as much as we can, even on the poster that's promoting the show, where people might look at it and go like, was that an accident? Is that graffiti? It's just strange.
What was your favorite scene to shoot this season, if you can say without giving anything away?
We did a snowboard episode, and that was fun, just to be on a mountain for the day. It was all on a bunny hill, but that was still fun.
Was it Hunter?
I'll tell you what my favorite thing was. I did a thing at a trapeze school. I mean, it's not a spoiler, but it's for the season finale. The season finale episode is skydiving, and it's a big will he or won't he, and part of it is trying some things to get used to heights, and I'd never done it before.
Is your character afraid of heights?
My character is afraid of heights. Yes, I was.
Afraid of heights?
Oh yeah, I was. I wasn't. Maybe I skydive. It's very possible. But part of it was, let me try some things to get used to being high up in the air. One of them was trapeze, and I was terrified going in. It was so fun.
Really?
It was so much fun.
You're roped in. I mean, you're clipped in and everything.
Oh, yeah. You are
right?
harnessed. They have you strapped in everywhere. It's very safe, but it's terrifying. But really, really fun.
How much of this show is you, one, getting to get gear, two, getting to try new things, while at the same time being able to do the dumbest things? Like, how much of this is like a catharsis and just fun for you?
It's a combination of all of it. It's all that stuff. It's trying to do things that I would genuinely like, or that I would genuinely want to try that I've never done before. I
want to go snowboarding. Let me write an episode about snowboarding.
Pretty much, or the first season. Oh, what if my character gets a custom bike frame that I won't have to pay for? It's got a lot of that stuff where I almost feel bad, but that's the show, and that's really what it's about. And if it were a real show, that's what they would do. So that's part of it.
Has there been anything that you haven't been able to do yet that you've wanted?
Not that I can think of. There's still going to be things, for example, like this custom bike. We can't just get the most expensive bike we want. We're still bound by a specific budget. We can't. I mean, it's even for something like this trail running shot in the trailer. Like, I'd love to go somewhere truly spectacular. We just don't have the budget for a major trip with a bunch of crew people. So there are limitations like that where it would be nice to actually see, go to like Colorado or somewhere where it's just truly spectacular. So those things, just become an issue, but it's not always a negative. You can certainly do. I mean, we shot that up in the Gunks, and it's beautiful up there. Still plenty gorgeous.
Let's talk about this photo here.
Sure.
Is this photoshopped, or did you actually throw on a ton of gear and get?
I threw a ton of gear on. I jumped in a pool, and then I drowned and I died. And now this is my ghost talking to you.
Thank God, because I don't know what I'd do without some sort of presence of yours.
Yes.
It's great.
Yeah, this was all photoshopped. I was on a rig. I think I put something even on my Instagram, but where you can see the ropes and the pulleys and all that, and then they just photoshopped it out, and they shot everybody separately and just placed them in and blurred Miriam's face. It's Miriam Tolan, one of the funniest people in the world.
And Steve Service, who's been with you since Delocated, Neon Joe.
Yeah.
Is he essentially going to be in everything that you make at this point, you think?
Potentially. He's so good. Man, Steve's so great.
He's so good at playing your sort of, not foil, but he's your spurt, but at the same time, his job is to look at you and go, God, this guy's such a jackass.
Yeah. Yeah, he plays the audience like, ugh. Reacting to my characters.
And Miriam Tolan, yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, I've known her since my days in Chicago doing improv in Second City, and she's so funny. I felt bad asking her to do the show. I was like, hey, do you want to do this thing in my show, and you'll play my wife, and we'll blur your face?
Yeah. I was wondering about
vain
that.
actors, it's like, oh, fuck that, no. But yeah, can you swear on the show? Sorry. Yeah, you can swear. But she's so funny. She's even with the blurred face, she's hilarious. She's very funny. A lot of the body language makes me laugh. She's great. I love her.
You said Chicago. You knew her in Chicago. When were you in Chicago doing comedy?
I was there early
Second
mid '90s. Yeah, I did Second City. I did a place called Improv Olympic.
So early to mid '90s. That was basically with that whole crew that everyone talks about all the time.
That crew that everyone talks about.
Well, I don't want to name names for you.
Well, you
like
can.
McKay was there around that time,
yeah,
right?
Adam McKay. Well, the Second City show I did, Adam McKay and Rachel Dratch and Scott Adsit were in it. Those are the names you recognize. this woman named Jenna Jolovitz and a guy named Scott Allman. Super funny people. Also
Carell
in the
and
show.
Colbert just before you guys?
Carell and Colbert were before me. I actually understudied Colbert in a show that he did. And it was right before he moved to New York, so I got to take his place and was in the show for months. So as an understudy, it was like a dream scenario. And the show was really funny, but Jackie Hoffman was in that show as well. She's a real, I don't know if you know her. And Sky Dave Rosowski, so Fran Adams, Ruthie Rudnick, so many funny people in the show. But they were a little before me. But yeah, around my time was people like, Polar was there. All the UCB people were in Chicago at the time. It was a lot of really great people.
Was there a sense at that time that it was a special time, a special moment?
I don't know if it was so much then as it is kind of looking back when you realize, look at all these amazing people that were there. You could probably say that about any generation of Second City because the people before us, like Carell, Colbert, Amy Sedaris were all in a show together. I mean, that's pretty nuts. Those are three of the funniest people in the world. And, before them,
And if you looked at the groundlings over in LA as well,
Sure.
you might have like another group of people
Yes.
that we refer to as classic comedians at this
Yes.
point.
But I still do look at that time as a pretty amazing group of people. Dave Keckner, I mean, so many good people.
What was it like working with McKay?
I mean, he's one of the smartest, funniest people you'll ever meet. Just an incredible mind, very impressive brain on that guy, and he's so funny.
Right on. John, I love the show so much.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The season premiere is tonight, right?
Tonight at 10:30 on TruTV.
And it's so great. Jon Glaser Loves Gear. Everybody give a big round of applause for Jon Glaser. Let's hear it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.